She walked into that grand ballroom believing she was invisible, just a simple planner among diamonds and arrogance. No one asked her name. No one even looked her way. Until the Mafia Boss stepped out of the shadows. They feared his power. They whispered about his darkness. But when he saw her, he didn't see weakness. He saw a soul just as lonely as his own. With 3 unexpected words, he silenced the room. "Dance with me." That night, the most feared man chose the most forgotten woman. But in a world of secrets and enemies, that single dance could cost everything. Stay till the end, because this is not just a dance, it's the beginning of a dangerous love. Stella Hartley stepped into the grand ballroom as if she had accidentally wandered into someone else's life. Her soft white dress brushed against her ankles, simple yet graceful, but in a sea of glittering gowns and diamonds, she felt like rain in a room full of fireworks, present but unnoticed. She carried herself with quiet dignity, clutching a glass of water to steady her trembling fingers. People floated past her with champagne flutes, silk laughter, and delicate perfumes that whispered of wealth and inheritance. No one looked her way, not even out of curiosity. She wasn't part of their world. She was a misplaced note in a perfect symphony. A couple nearby giggled, glancing in her direction, then quickly looked away as if she were something forgettable. Stella forced a small smile, pretending she didn't hear. She had learned long ago how to smile while breaking inside. She stood near the corner beneath a golden chandelier where shadows were kinder than human eyes. Her heart ached, not for love, but simply to be seen. She watched women in gowns twirl under crystal lights, their laughter floating like music while she remained still, like a silent painting on a forgotten wall. True loneliness, she thought, wasn't being alone. It was being surrounded by people who never even noticed your existence. She whispered to herself, "I shouldn't have come." She was just an event planner, accidentally invited when her name got mixed with someone wealthy. Yet a small, fragile hope had bloomed in her. Maybe tonight she would feel different. But instead, she felt smaller with every passing minute. No one asked her name. No one asked if she danced. No one asked if she dreamed. She gently touched her cheek, wondering if she had faded away completely. Her reflection in the mirrored wall felt like a stranger, soft eyes, tired smile, a soul desperate to belong. The ballroom's light shimmered, but inside her everything was dim. She thought about leaving, about slipping away so quietly that no one would notice, because they hadn't noticed her arrival either. She turned slightly, hoping for air, escape, anything. And somewhere high above, leaning on the balcony rail, stood a pair of eyes that did notice. Griffin Cross. To the world, he was a myth, spoken of in low whispers, feared more than understood. A man no one dared approach, a man who commanded silence without uttering a word. But in that moment, he wasn't looking at power or diamonds or important names. He was looking at her. Stella, lost in her loneliness, didn't feel his gaze, but he felt every tremor in her silence. While others saw nothing, he saw everything, her quiet strength, her breaking heart, her invisible glow. There was something about her loneliness that mirrored his own. She didn't know it yet, but the night she wanted to disappear was the night she was truly seen, not by the world, but by the one man whose eyes could change her fate. Griffin Cross had already chosen her, and fate had already begun to turn. Griffin Cross stood where the light dared not touch, high above on the balcony draped in velvet shadows. His sharp gray eyes scanned the glowing ballroom, not in admiration, but in quiet calculation. He wasn't like the rest. He wasn't dazzled by diamonds or seduced by titles. He was a storm disguised in a suit. People whispered his name with fear, as if speaking it too loudly could summon danger. A thin scar rested just above his right brow, a silent reminder of the life he had lived, the blood he had survived. He wasn't just wealthy. He was powerful in ways the world couldn't measure. Men moved aside when he walked, women lowered their eyes, and silence followed him like a trained shadow. But tonight none of that mattered. He wasn't here to intimidate. He wasn't here to conquer. He was here, and he was watching her. Stella Hartley, a woman who wore no jewels, no arrogance, no mask. While others flaunted themselves to be seen, she tried to disappear. Her quiet sadness pulled at him like gravity, unexplainable, undeniable. Griffin knew manipulation, lies, and performance better than anyone. But she was painfully real. A soul standing alone among shallow faces. He had built an empire on power, yet he had never tasted peace. He had hundreds of men who feared him, yet not one person who understood him. And somehow this lonely woman in a blue dress mirrored the emptiness he carried. She didn't chase attention. She didn't pretend to belong. She simply existed as too wounded but graceful. And that made her extraordinary. He watched her flinch with every careless laugh around her. He saw her swallow her hurt, hiding it with a soft smile no one appreciated. She didn't know it, but she was the bravest person in the room. Not because she was strong, but because she stayed despite feeling unseen. Something unfamiliar stirred within him. He wasn't a man of impulse, he was a man of control. But with her, control slipped. He stepped forward. And as he began his descent from the balcony, the crowd sensed his movement, shifting nervously, like candles flickering before a gust of wind. Men straightened. Women held their breath. Conversations drowned in silence. He moved with the calm of a king, the danger of a predator. But for once, his steps were not toward confrontation. They were toward compassion. He approached her. She didn't notice. She was too lost in her loneliness. Everyone else stepped back. She stood still. And then, that voice, deep, calm, unshakable. You shouldn't stand alone. She turned, startled, eyes widening. She didn't know him. But he had already chosen her. Stella felt the world tilt when she turned and saw him. Griffin Cross. The man whispered about in corridors. The man people avoided without being told why. His presence wasn't loud, it was silent, powerful, impossible to ignore. He stood before her, towering, composed. His gray eyes fixed on her as if she were the only soul alive. "Me?" she breathed, disbelief trembling in her voice. No one had looked at her all evening. No one had noticed her existence. Yet he, the one man people feared to even approach, had come straight to her. He extended his hand. "Yes, you." No decoration, no flattery, just certainty. Command wrapped in invitation. A hush rippled across the ballroom. Silk whispers, halted laughter. Everyone froze. The ignored girl in the blue dress, chosen by Griffin Cross. It was unthinkable. It was scandalous. It was unforgettable. Stella hesitated, not out of pride, out of fear. Fear of mockery, fear of being a joke. But there was something in his eyes, not amusement, not pity. Something raw, something real. Slowly, almost unwillingly, she placed her hand in his. His touch was warm. Too warm. It felt like someone had placed fire into her frozen palms. He led her to the dance floor without a word. The crowd parted before them like shadows fleeing the sun. The music continued, but the world stopped. Her heart hammered like a drum against her ribs. She dared not look up, yet she couldn't look away. He held her gently, not like a fragile thing, but like something sacred. His eyes, those steel-gray eyes, never once left her face. They weren't searching her beauty. They were searching her soul. She expected judgment. She expected ridicule. But all she found was silence, safety. They swayed slowly, like two secrets learning each other's weight. Her breath caught. She had danced before, but never like this. Never with someone who looked at her as if she mattered. "Why, me?" she whispered, almost choking on the words. It wasn't curiosity. It was pain disguised as a question. Why her when so many shining women surrounded them? Why her when she was no one? Griffin's voice was low, steady. "Because you don't lie with your eyes." The answer hit her like a storm of gentle rain. No one had ever read her so deeply. She had no mask, no defense, no pretense, and for the first time, it wasn't a weakness. It was the very reason she was chosen. While others sparkled with polished words, she trembled with unspoken truths. While others sought admiration, she sought escape. And he, a man feared by the world, chose that truth. Around them, whispers curled like smoke. But inside the circle of his arms, there was only silence. She didn't know if she was safe. She didn't know if this was a dream or a danger. But she knew one thing. For the first time in her life, she was seen. And sometimes being seen is the most dangerous gift of all. The world continued to dance around them, but in Griffin's arms, Stella felt as though they had stepped out of time. No chandeliers, no judgmental eyes, no watchful society, only a quiet corner of truth neither had planned to reveal. Her guard, built over years of loneliness, cracked under the steady calm of his presence. She lowered her gaze, voice soft but quivering. "I don't belong here, I never do." Her confession wasn't dramatic. It was wounded. "I have no family, no name people care to remember. I grew up with silence, and I think I became it." Griffin's eyes did not waver. No pity, no surprise. Only recognition. "Silence can be louder than crowds," he murmured. She looked up, startled at how deeply he understood. He continued, voice steady, almost sorrowful. "People surround me every day, but none of them truly see me. They bow, they obey, they fear." His gaze locked onto hers. "But fear is not the same as being known." Stella's breath caught. How strange, to find her reflection in a mafia boss. He carried power like armor, yet his eyes held a haunted solitude. She dared quietly, "Are you dangerous?" The question trembled, but it was honest. For a moment, a dark amusement ghosted across his lips. Then came the smirk, slow, deliberate, unthreatening. "Only to those who harm what I care about." The words were simple, but the meaning behind them burned. She wasn't sure when it happened, but something within her, fragile yet fierce, bloomed at the thought of being protected. No one had ever fought for her, but he seemed capable of fighting the world. And in that stolen breath, Stella understood. He wasn't just dangerous to others. He was dangerous to her heart. But before she could speak again, the music shifted. The air grew cold. From the entrance, a figure entered, eyes sharp, steps heavy, aura unmistakably hostile. A rival, a threat, a reminder that Griffin Cross did not walk in safe worlds. The ballroom did not know his name, but Griffin did. The change in him was immediate, subtle, but lethal. His jaw tightened, his shoulders stilled. The warmth in his eyes retreated, replaced by iron. Yet his hand remained on hers, tight, protective, unmoving. Stella felt it. Danger was approaching, but she was not being released. He would not let her go. Not now, not ever. The stranger's glare lingered on Stella with cruel curiosity, as if realizing she had become important. Jealousy, malice, a silent threat. The calm of the evening shattered, replaced by a tension thick enough to choke breath. Griffin's voice, low and deadly, brushed her ear. "Stay close, do not fear." She realized then this dance was never just a dance. It was the beginning of something beautiful, of something dangerous, of something fate had already claimed. For the first time in years, he had something to lose. And she had someone willing to fight for her. The intruder's steps echoed across the marble floor, slow and deliberate, like a snake gliding through silk. His eyes didn't go to Griffin first, they went to her. Stella felt the chill of his stare, a cruel smirk lifting at the corner of his lips. "New weakness, Griffin?" the man mocked, voice dripping with poison. The ballroom held its breath. People shrank back, recognizing danger without understanding it. But Stella did not move. She couldn't. Her feet felt rooted to the floor, her pulse thundering in her ears. Before fear could consume her, Griffin stepped forward. One step. That was all it took. Yet it felt like a wall had risen in front of her. His body now shielded hers completely, and when he spoke, his voice was no longer soft. It was frost, steel, death. "Walk away," he warned, eyes locked on the rival. "If you value your life." There was no shout, no threat screamed aloud. Yet the silent promise in his gaze could drown armies. The rival's smile faltered, swallowed by unease. He knew Griffin Cross did not bluff. He buried. A beat passed, then another. And finally, like a man who had just glimpsed his own grave, the intruder stepped back. He left without a word, beaten not by force, but by the silent storm in Griffin's eyes. But when the danger faded, Stella was still trembling. She looked up at him, confusion and awe swirling in her gaze. "Why, protect me," she whispered, breath unsteady. There was no logic. He owed her nothing. She was no one, yet he had stood like a shield before her. Griffin turned to her then, and for the first time, the iron melted. The storm quieted. Something in him, something long buried, softened when he looked at her. His jaw unclenched, his eyes gentled. "Because tonight?" He paused, as though fighting to release the truth. "You reminded me I still have a heart." The words struck her deeper than any poem. Not because they were romantic, but because they were raw. This man, feared by nations, confessed to her the one thing he never showed another soul: his humanity. Stella, moved beyond fear, did something no one had ever dared. She reached out and gently touched his scarred hand. Her fingers grazed the roughness near his knuckles, the proof of battles fought in shadows. "And she whispered, voice trembling with emotion. "I saw the part of you no one else dares to see." He didn't flinch. He didn't pull away. He let her touch the wounds life had carved into him. In a room full of diamonds, she had chosen his scars. And in a life full of weapons, he had chosen her gentleness. The ballroom around them blurred, fading like a distant dream. No more laughter, no more eyes, just two hearts, revealed without permission. In that moment, nothing was said aloud. But something eternal, unbreakable, had been silently promised. He would protect her. She would humanize him, and together, they would battle the world, even if the world never understood their love. It was not just a dance anymore. It was a vow. A vow born in danger, sealed in honesty. And fragile as it seemed, it was stronger than fear. The night had grown quiet, the music long faded, the lights of the ballroom dimming like the final breath of a dream. But outside, beneath the gentle glow of moonlight, Stella and Griffin walked in silence, not awkward, but sacred. There were no whispers here, no eyes, no judgments, just a man who carried shadows and a woman who carried light. Her steps were slow, reluctant to end the moment. For the first time in years, she did not rush to leave. She lingered, as if afraid to wake from something beautiful. He walked beside her, hands in his pockets, his usual stride softened. He wasn't the feared Griffin Cross now. No power, no walls, just a man, quietly battling emotions he had never known how to feel. They reached her car. Still, neither spoke, because some feelings were bigger than words. Finally, he turned to face her, his steel-gray eyes gentler than she had ever seen. "They ignored you," he said softly, voice low with restrained anger. "They judged you because you didn't shine like them." He paused, as if confessing something he'd never dared say. "But His voice lowered to a whisper, raw, honest. "I saw you." Tears gathered in Stella's eyes, not of sadness, but of something far rarer. Gratitude, relief, healing. "Thank you," she managed through trembling lips, "for choosing me when no one did." He stepped closer, not with hunger, but with reverence. He reached up and gently brushed his thumb along her cheek, collecting a tear like it was something precious. "This is not our ending, Stella," he whispered, his breath warm against her skin. "It's our beginning." She didn't answer with words. She didn't need to. Her smile, soft and luminous, said everything. Tonight, she wasn't the invisible girl in the blue dress. Tonight, she had been seen. As she opened her car door, she looked back one last time. The Mafia Boss, feared by the world, stood there watching her, but not as an untouchable king. As a man who had finally found something worth protecting, worth loving, worth changing for. She drove away with a full heart. Not rich, not powerful, not perfect, but visible, chosen, cherished. And somewhere behind her, in the same quiet street, Griffin Cross exhaled a truth he had never dared believe. He was no longer alone either. In a world that worships perfection, remember this: sometimes the strongest hearts belong to the quietest souls. Sometimes the most powerful love begins when someone dares to see the unseen. Do not judge by wealth, beauty, or noise, for true worth lives in those who carry silence with grace.